I am Gloria Hart. I am 68 years old, and if there is one thing a lifetime of pouring concrete and calculating load limits has taught me, it is that structural failure rarely happens all at once. It starts with a hairline fracture, invisible to the naked eye, until the weight becomes too much, and the whole damn thing collapses. I learned that family is no different. I gave my daughter and her husband a $200,000 down payment for their starter home and paid off their student loans, expecting nothing but a seat at the Thanksgiving table. In return, they handed me an eviction notice for my own life. They looked at me and saw a relic, a rusted-out beam that needed to be scrapped to make room for something shinier. They thought they were leaving behind a helpless, senile old woman who would just roll over and die in the dark. They didn't know I was the one who designed the foundations they were standing on. They didn't know that before I retired, I specialized in controlled demolitions, bringing down massive rotting structures without scratching the buildings next door. By tomorrow morning, they will be homeless, staring at a locked gate, and I will be the warden of a prison they built for themselves. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The air in the Chattahoochee National Forest was thick enough to chew on, heavy with the scent of damp pine needles and coming rain. I liked it that way. It felt real. It felt substantial. I knelt on the rough-hewn planks of the back deck, the knees of my canvas work pants soaked through with morning dew, my hands spotted with age but still steady as a surgeon's guided the Makita drill. Thunk. The 3-inch screw bit deep into the pressure-treated lumber, anchoring the new railing post to the joist. I wasn't just fixing a porch, I was reinforcing a sanctuary. When Marcus passed, the city became a cage. Every corner of our old condo in Atlanta screamed of his absence. The noise, the traffic, the endless hurry of people going nowhere. It all felt like static interference in a brain that just wanted silence. This cabin, 15 acres of tangled woods and rocky creek beds, was the only place I could hear his voice again. I stood up, testing the rail with my weight. Solid, it wouldn't budge. Good enough for government work, I muttered to the blue jays fighting over the feeder. I wiped the sweat from my forehead with the back of a gloved hand. This was the retirement I had engineered. No deadlines, no blueprints, just the simple, honest physics of wood and stone. I walked to the edge of the porch and looked out over the ravine. The creek was running high, frothing white over the gray slate rocks. It was chaotic, dangerous, and beautiful. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a harsh, digital intrusion. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again, persistent like a mosquito you couldn't swat. I pulled it out. The screen flashed a photo of my daughter Audrey, but the name underneath was Bennett and Audrey. It was always a package deal these days. You couldn't get the daughter without the manager. I slid the icon to answer. Morning, sunshine, Gloria. Hey, it wasn't Audrey, it was Bennett. His voice was slick, polished. The kind of voice that sold you an extended warranty you didn't need. He didn't call me Mom or Mrs. Hart, just Gloria. He thought it made us equals. Bennett, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Is everything all right? Is Audrey okay? She's fine. She's fine. Listen, we need to talk schedules. Big news. I'm listening. Rex and Sheila sold the condo in Miami Beach yesterday. Cash offer $40,000 over asking. Market's on fire. Gloria, just on fire. My stomach tightened. Rex and Sheila were Bennett's parents. To people who believed the world owed them a living because they had bothered to show up. Good for them, I said. I assume they're moving to a retirement community. Bennett laughed. It was a sharp, barking sound. Retirement community. Come on, Gloria. You know what those places cost. It's highway robbery. No, we've got a better plan. A synergy play. I gripped the railing. Synergy. They're coming up to you Tuesday. The movers are booked. He didn't ask. He didn't propose. He informed. To visit, I asked, though I already knew the answer. To live, Gloria. To live? Look, that cabin is massive. You're rattling around in there like a pea in a drum. It's inefficient. Rex and Sheila take the guest suites. We convert the basement for you. It's a walkout. Plenty of light. And suddenly, we have a multi-generational asset. The basement, I repeated. The one with the concrete floor and the water heater. We'll throw down some rugs, put up some drywall. It'll be you'll love it. Plus, Sheila can cook for you. You're eating what? Canned soup. It's a win-win, Bennett. This is my home. You can't just move people in. Actually, Gloria, his voice dropped an octave, losing the sales cheer. We can. Or have you forgotten whose name is on the loan cosign? We're all in this financial ecosystem together. Audrey is worried about you. We all are. This isn't a request. They'll be there Tuesday at noon. Make sure the driveway is clear for the truck. Click. The silence that rushed back into the forest wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, oppressive. 3 days later, the gravel of my driveway crunched under the tires of a pearl white Range Rover. I watched from the porch. I hadn't cleared the driveway. In fact, I had parked my rusted Ford F-150 right in the middle of the turnaround, forcing them to park on the grass. Petty, maybe, but in war, you take your victories where you can get them. Bennett stepped out first. He was wearing a vest over a dress shirt, sunglasses that cost more than my first car, and loafers that had never seen dirt. Audrey followed. She looked thinner than the last time I saw her. Her shoulders were hunched, her eyes darting around nervously. And then a third man, short, stocky, carrying a laser measure and a clipboard. "Mom," Audrey called out, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She ran up the steps and hugged me. She smelled like expensive perfume and anxiety. "It's so green out here. It's a forest, honey," I said, squeezing her shoulder. "That's the point." Bennett marched up the stairs, bypassing me to shake the hand of the man with the clipboard. "Kyle, this is the place. Good bones, terrible execution." "Who is this?" I asked, stepping between Bennett and the door. "This is Kyle, best contractor in Savannah. If we're going to house Rex and Sheila, we need to upgrade. This rustic chic is a little too Unabomber for my mom." Kyle didn't even look at me. He pushed past, walking into my living room. "Ceilings are low," he grunted. "We can vault this. Blow out the attic." I followed them inside. "The attic trusses are engineered to handle the snow load," I said, my voice hard. "You cut those ties, the roof spreads, and the walls push out. The house pancakes." Kyle looked at me with a sneer. "We use ridge beams now. Pops, steel, open concept. Who's paying for a steel ridge beam?" I asked Bennett. Bennett was tapping on the wall where Marcus's favorite painting hung, a watercolor of the Blue Ridge Mountains. "The equity, Gloria, the equity. We refinance, pull out the cash, upgrade the asset. It increases the resale value by 40%. I'm not selling." "Not yet," Bennett said, winking. "But eventually you'll need care. Nursing homes aren't cheap. We're building your nest egg." He walked into the kitchen. "This wall goes. We need an island. Mom needs an island. That's a load-bearing shear wall," I snapped. "It braces the structure against winds here." "Kyle," Bennett asked. Kyle tapped the wall. "I can put in a header. LVL beam. No problem." 2 days. Audrey stood in the corner, twisting the strap of her purse. "Audrey," I said softly, "is this what you want? Your in-laws living here, me in the basement?" She looked at Bennett. Bennett didn't look back. He was busy looking at his phone. "It makes sense, Mom," she whispered, reciting a script. "Financially, and you're lonely. You need family." "I have family," I said. "I have you." "You have us," Bennett corrected, turning around. "And starting Tuesday, you'll have Rex and Sheila. Look, Gloria, don't fight the current. You're too old to swim upstream. Just float." I didn't float. I drove into town. The County Historical Society was a small brick building that smelled of dust and old paper. Mrs. Patterson, a woman with blue hair and glasses on a chain, looked up from her desk. "Can I help you, dear?" "I hope so," I said, laying a folder on her desk. "I own the property on Old Mill Creek. I was digging in the deed history. There's a foundation stone near the water dating back to 1864, a Confederate grist mill." Her eyes lit up. "Oh my, we haven't had a new registry in years. I want to apply for historical landmark status," I said, "for the whole 15 acres. You know, that restricts development," she warned. "You can't change the exterior of existing structures without a board hearing. No new builds within 300 yards of the artifact." "I know," I said. "That's exactly what I want." It was a desperate play. If I could get the land tagged, Bennett couldn't remodel. He couldn't blow out the walls or add a wing for his parents. The bureaucracy would freeze him out. "Fill this out," she said, handing me a stack of forms. "I'll fast-track it to the zoning commissioner. He's a history buff." I filled out the paperwork with a shaking hand. It felt like a victory, a small paper shield against the bulldozer. 2 days later, a county truck pulled up, but it wasn't Mrs. Patterson. It was a man named Vince. I knew the type. I'd worked with hundreds of them on job sites. Dead eyes, chewing gum, a clipboard that was more of a weapon than a tool. Gloria Hart, that's me. Zoning complaint, unpermitted structures, unsafe electrical. "What?" I stepped off the porch. "I built this place to code 3 years ago, signed off and stamped. Vince walked around the perimeter. He didn't look at the meter. He didn't look at the foundation. He walked straight to the new deck railing I had installed. He took out a bright orange sticker. Stop work order. That railing isn't graspable. Code says 1 1/2 inch diameter maximum. This is a 2x4 violation. He slapped the sticker on the wood. That's a minor fix, I argued. I can sand it down. Also received a report about the septic leach field being too close to the creek. Vince said, peeling off another sticker. And the Historical Society called, said your application was misplaced. Frivolous filing. They flagged you for wasting county resources. My blood ran cold. I handed that application to Mrs. Patterson yesterday. Yeah, well, Vince smirked. Commissioners don't like people trying to weaponize the registry. Mr. Bennett called, explained the situation, said you were confused, getting a little forgetful. Bennett, he had contacts, he was in sales, he knew everyone. So, you're condemning my house because my son-in-law made a phone call. I'm citing you for violations, Mrs. Hart, Vince said, handing me a slip of pink paper. You have 30 days to remediate. Until then, the structure is flagged. No occupancy for the primary owner until safety checks are cleared. However, he paused, looking at his notes. Immediate family providing care are exempt from the occupancy ban if they act as stewards. Loophole for 4B. I stared at him. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a setup. Bennett had orchestrated a code violation that kicked me out, but allowed them in as caretakers. Get off my land, I growled. Vince chuckled. Have a nice day, Mrs. Hart. I needed to hit something. I grabbed my splitting maul and a stack of oak rounds, and went to the woodpile. Crack, crack, crack. Each swing was a conversation I wanted to have with Bennett's face. You're swinging that thing like it owes you money. I spun around, gripping the handle. Standing at the edge of the clearing was a man I'd seen only in passing. Jericho. He lived on the ridge over a retired ranger. Rumor had it, he looked like he was carved out of granite, wearing camouflage pants and a faded t-shirt. Rough week, I said, breathing hard. Saw the county truck, Jericho said, leaning against a tree. Vince is a snake, takes payments in Scotch and golf club memberships. My son-in-law knows him. Figured, city money moves loud. Jericho walked closer, looking at the orange tag on my porch. They trying to push you out. They're moving in, turning my home into a hotel for his parents. I tried the historical angle. They crushed it. Jericho spat on the ground. History doesn't stop developers. They just bulldoze it and put up a plaque. You want to stop them. You need something living. Living, biology, the Endangered Species Act, federal law, Trump's county zoning, Trump's deeds, Trump's everything. I lowered the axe. I haven't seen anything rare here, just squirrels and deer. You aren't looking right, Jericho said. I was a ranger for 30 years. This rain we've been having, it wakes things up. The ravine down by your creek. It's got the right shale deposits, blue-spotted salamanders, Embystoma latera, an amphibian, extremely rare in this latitude. If we can document a breeding pair, the EPA designates a critical habitat zone, 50-foot buffer, no construction, no renovation, no disturbance, total freeze. I looked at the woods. It was a long shot, a needle in a haystack. How do we find them? Jericho smiled, showing teeth that had seen too much tobacco. We get wet, we get cold, and we pray. For 2 days, I didn't sleep. Jericho and I lived in the ravine. It was grueling. The mud was ankle deep, sucking at our boots with every step. The rain was relentless. A cold drizzle that soaked through my poncho and chilled me to the bone. My arthritis flared in my hips, a grinding pain that made me want to scream, but I kept moving. Jericho was a machine. He moved through the underbrush without making a sound, turning over rocks with a gentle reverence. Careful, he whispered, kneeling beside a rotting log. Don't crush the moss. They like the damp rot. We found worms. We found beetles. We found a common red-backed salamander. Useless, Jericho muttered. Common as dirt. Bennett arrives tomorrow, I said, checking my watch. It was Sunday evening. The truck comes Tuesday morning. Then we keep looking. We worked into the night using red light headlamps to avoid spooking the wildlife. The darkness was absolute. The sound of the creek was a roar. I was exhausted. I slipped on a wet slate rock. Twisting my knee, I went down hard, face first into the mud. Damn it, I yelled, slamming my fist into the water. Quiet, Jericho hissed. He grabbed my shoulder and pointed. There, in the pool of water I had just disturbed, something moved. It was small, maybe 4 inches long, black as oil with brilliant iridescent blue spots down its sides. It froze in the beam of the red light. Is that it? I whispered, my heart hammering against my ribs. That's the ghost, Jericho said softly. Male, look at the tail. He pulled out a waterproof digital camera. Click, click, click. He took photos of the salamander, the location, the GPS coordinates on his device. He took a video of it moving. We need a female, he said, to prove a breeding population. We searched for another hour. We found her under a fern bank 10 feet away. Jackpot. Jericho grinned. We have a colony. We hiked back up the ridge as the sun began to bleed gray light through the trees. We were covered in filth, freezing, and victorious. We had the bullet that would kill the invasion. I left Jericho at the property line. I'll upload these to the cloud, I said, patting the waterproof case in my pocket, containing the memory card. Then I'm driving to the city to find a lawyer. Don't lose that card, Jericho warned. That's your deed now. I walked into the cabin. I needed coffee. I needed a shower, but the door was unlocked. I froze. I knew I had locked it. I pushed the door open. Bennett was sitting in my leather armchair, his feet up on the ottoman. He was holding a tumbler of my whiskey. Look like hell, Gloria, he said, swirling the amber liquid. What are you doing here? I demanded, adrenaline dumping into my exhausted system. The truck isn't due until tomorrow. Surprise inspection, Bennett smiled. And frankly, looking at you, dragging in at dawn, covered in mud, it confirms everything. You're losing it, Gloria. Wandering the woods, playing, distinct lack of hygiene. Get out. Audrey gave me the key, he said, dangling it. We're family, remember. He stood up and walked toward me. What's in the pocket? You're clutching it like gold. None of your business. Bennett was younger, faster. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. I was strong, but I was 68 and had been hiking for 48 hours. He twisted my arm. Let go. What is this? He yanked the plastic case out of my pocket. He popped it open. A memory card. What is this? Spy games. Give it back. Let's see what Grandma is hiding. He walked to his laptop, which was open on my dining table. No, I lunged for him. Bennett sidestepped. He held the card up to the light. Probably photos of the house. Code violations. Trying to hide the evidence. It's evidence of a federal habitat, I shouted. You can't build here, Bennett. I found them. Bennett paused. The smile vanished. He looked at the card, then at me. He realized I wasn't bluffing. The sales masks dropped, revealing the shark beneath. Habitat, he muttered. Endangered species. That's your play. He looked at the glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked at the tiny, fragile SD card. Oops, he said. He dropped the card into the whiskey. Bennett, clumsy fingers, he said, swirling the glass. The alcohol would ruin the contacts, corrupt the data. He walked to the kitchen sink and poured the whiskey and the card down the drain. He flipped the disposal switch. Crunch. The sound was the sickening crunch of my victory being chewed into plastic dust. Now, Bennett said, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Go shower. You smell like a swamp. My parents will be here in 24 hours. Be ready. He walked out whistling. I sat on the floor of the kitchen. I stared at the drain. I was beaten. I had nothing. No lawyer would take the case without proof. No judge would grant an injunction on the word of a senile old woman against a respectable businessman. Outside, the sky opened up. The storm that had been threatening for days finally broke. It was a deluge. Thunder shook the cabin. My phone rang. It was Jericho. Did you upload it? He destroyed it, I croaked. He was here. He put it in the disposal. Silence on the line. Then we go back out, Jericho said. Now, Jericho, it's a flood out there. The creek will be raging. The salamanders move in heavy rain, Jericho said. This is a mass migration event. If we go now, we won't just see 2, we'll see hundreds, but we have to document it now before the movers arrive. I can't, I whispered. I'm tired. Jericho, do you want them in your house? Jericho asked. Do you want that man sleeping in your husband's room? Rage. It's a powerful fuel. It burns hotter than exhaustion. Meet me at the trailhead, I said. The ravine was a death trap. The creek had swollen into a brown torrent, tearing at the banks. The wind whipped the trees, sending branches crashing down around us. We didn't have the luxury of caution. We scrambled down the slick mud. Over there, Jericho shouted over the wind, pointing his powerful flashlight beam. The ground was moving. It was a carpet of them. Blue-spotted salamanders, triggered by the deluge, were migrating from the ridge to the pools. It wasn't just a pair. It was a major population event. My God, I shouted. I pulled out my backup camera, an old DSLR I kept in my birdwatching bag. I wrapped it in a plastic bag, cutting a hole for the lens. I started shooting video, photos, wide shots showing the density, close-ups showing the markings. I stepped closer to the water to get a shot of them entering the pool. The bank gave way. Gloria, I slid. The mud was like grease. I hit the water. The current grabbed me instantly, cold and violent. It dragged me under. I tumbled, my shoulder slamming into a rock. I flailed, gasping for air, swallowing grit. A hand grabbed the back of my collar. Jericho was braced against a hemlock tree, straining, his veins popping in his neck. He hauled me out of the water like a sack of wet cement. I lay on the bank, coughing up water. I checked the camera. It was still wrapped in the plastic, dry. We got it, I wheezed. We got the bastards. I didn't go home. I didn't shower. I drove straight to Atlanta, shivering in my wet clothes, the heater in the truck blasting. I pulled up to the glass tower of Washington and Associates at 8 a.m. I looked like a homeless person. Ms. Washington was a shark in a silk suit. She looked at me with disdain until I put the SD card from the DSLR into her computer and pulled up the photos. Then I put a check for $50,000 on her desk, my entire liquid savings. I don't just want an injunction, I said, my voice raspy. I want a fortress. This evidence confirms a Class A critical habitat, she said, her eyes scanning the screen. But that just stops construction. It doesn't stop them from moving into the existing house. I know, I said. That's why I want to create a trust. The Marcus Hart Wilderness Sanctuary. I laid out the plan I had formulated on the drive over. It was structural engineering applied to the law. I donate the land, all of it, to the trust today. Immediately. Irrevocable, she asked. Irrevocable. And the house? The house is no longer a residence, I said. Check the zoning definitions for conservation land. If the primary purpose is research, the structure becomes a support facility. Ms. Washington smiled. It was a terrifying, beautiful thing. A ranger station? Exactly. And ranger stations have strict occupancy rules. Essential personnel only. We can write the bylaws, she said, pulling up a fresh document. We can make them sharper than razor wire. No guests for more than 24 hours, no pets, no non-native plants, and certainly no permanent residents who aren't certified biological stewards. Drafted, I said. The truck arrives at noon. I made it back to the cabin at 11:45 a.m. I changed into a clean flannel shirt and jeans. I brewed a pot of coffee. I stood on the porch. At 12 o'clock sharp, the convoy arrived. Bennett's Range Rover followed by a massive yellow moving truck. Rex and Sheila spilled out of the car. Rex was a large man with a red face wearing a polo shirt that was too tight. Sheila was in white linen pants, looking at the mud on her shoes with horror. Well, Rex boomed. Bit of a drive. Road needs paving. Bennett walked up looking triumphant. Told you we'd be here. Gloria, are the rooms ready? The house is clean, I said calmly. Good movers. Bennett shouted at the truck driver. Back it up to the porch. Be careful with the antique armoire. Wait, I said. I didn't shout. I just spoke clearly. Bennett stopped. What now? Don't start. Gloria, you lost. I just thought, I said, smiling, that before you unload, you should see the garden. Sheila, you wanted a rose garden, right? Sheila perked up. Oh yes, that dreadful patch of weeds by the creek needs to go. Come with me. I led them down the path. The ground was still soft from the storm. This area, I said, gesturing to the clearing where Jericho and I had found the salamanders. You wanted to rototill this? Absolutely, Sheila said. Roses need aeration. I'm afraid that's impossible, I said. Excuse me? See these flags. I pointed to the small pink markers I had placed 10 minutes ago. This marks the boundary of a federally designated critical habitat for Ambystoma lateral, the blue-spotted salamander. Bennett laughed. The lizard again. I told you I flushed that down the drain. You flushed one card, I said. You didn't flush the cloud upload I sent to the EPA and the State Conservancy Board this morning from my lawyer's office. The designation was filed at 9 a.m. A federal wildlife marshal is already on his way to inspect. Bennett's face went pale. You're lying. To disturb the soil here carries a fine of $50,000 per incident and up to a year in federal prison. So, no roses. Fine, Rex shouted. Who cares about roses? We're here for the house. Let's go inside. Ah, I said, the house. We walked back to the living room. The movers were waiting by the truck. looking bored. I picked up a thick, leather-bound binder from the coffee table. The gold lettering on the front gleamed. The Marcus Hart Wilderness Sanctuary Charter and Bylaws. What is this? Bennett asked, snatching it. That, I said, is the deed, or rather, the transfer of deed. Transfer. Audrey spoke up for the first time. Mom, did you sell the house? No, honey, I donated it. Donated? Sheila shrieked. To who? To the trust. I pointed to the binder. As of this morning, I do not own this property. I am merely the trustee and chief warden. Bennett was flipping through the pages frantically. This says the house is a biological research support station. Correct. It's a government-recognized facility now. Tax-exempt and heavily regulated. So what? Bennett snarled. We'll live in the station. Page 42, I said. Clause 7, Section B. Bennett read it. His hands started to shake. Occupancy is restricted to certified biological researchers and the appointed warden. No unauthorized long-term residents. Violation of occupancy codes results in the immediate revocation of the trust's status and reverts the land to the state. I looked at Rex and Sheila. I can't let you move in, I said, feigning deep regret. It would be illegal. The state would seize the property and I'd be removed as warden. My hands are tied. You son of a... Rex whispered. We sold our condo. We have nowhere to go. There is one option, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out 2 clipboards. The trust bylaws allow for 2 volunteer grants. It's an unpaid position, requires 6 hours of physical labor a day. Trail clearing, invasive species removal, latrine maintenance. In exchange, you get a cot in the bunkhouse. The bunkhouse? Sheila asked, trembling. The shed-out back, I clarified. It's insulated, mostly. I held out the clipboards to Rex and Sheila. Would you like to apply? I'll need references. Bennett threw the binder across the room. It hit the wall with a satisfying thud. I'll sue you, he screamed. I'll sue you for fraud. You did this to spite us. Sue who? I asked coldly. I don't own it, Bennett. You'd be suing a non-profit conservation trust backed by the EPA. They have lawyers who eat developers for breakfast. And I have no assets. I gave it all away. I'm a pauper with a very nice view. Bennett looked at me. He saw the engineer in me. Then he saw the woman who knew how to calculate the breaking point of a material. I had found his breaking point. He turned to Rex. You said she was senile. You said she was a pushover. Me, Rex shouted back, his face purple. You said it was a done deal. You made us sell the condo. I can't believe you, Sheila screamed at Bennett. We're homeless. It was a beautiful cacophony. The structure was collapsing just as I had designed. Audrey stood in the middle of the room. She looked at her husband, red-faced and screaming. She looked at her in-laws, pointing fingers. Then she looked at me. I was standing calm, drinking my coffee. Audrey, Bennett snapped. Get in the car. We're going to a hotel. We're getting a lawyer. Audrey didn't move. Audrey? No, she said. The room went silent. What did you say? Bennett hissed. I said, no. She walked over and stood next to me. She didn't touch me, but she aligned herself. You tried to steal her home, Bennett. You lied to me. You said she wanted this. I did it for us. You did it for the money, she said. Get out. You're my wife, and she's my mother, she said. Leave. Bennett looked at us. He looked at the binder on the floor. He looked at the movers who were now snickering by the truck. He realized he was outnumbered. Fine, he spat. Have it your way. Rot in this swamp. He grabbed his parents. Let's go. They stormed out. I heard the car doors slam. Then the truck engine roared to life. They reversed down the driveway, tires spinning in the mud, retreating in disgrace. The silence returned. This time it was clean. Audrey sat on the sofa, her head in her hands. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I know, I said. I sat beside her. But you stood up. That counts. What do I do now? You figure it out, I said. You can stay here for a few days. Guest rules apply, but then you need to build your own life, not his, yours. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I walked out to the porch. Jericho was walking up the driveway carrying a wooden sign. They gone? He asked. They're gone. Did they take the job applications? Oddly, they declined. Jericho chuckled. He held up the sign. It was rooted in thick oak. The Marcus Hart Wilderness Sanctuary. Warden G. Hart, help me hang this, he asked. Let me get my drill, I said. I watched the sun break through the storm clouds, illuminating the wet green world. I didn't own a square inch of it anymore, and I had never felt richer. I was Gloria Hart. I was the warden, and my watch had just begun. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.